Hey everybody, welcome back. It's another World of Warships Wednesday. I know you're all dying for it, I can tell by the views. Just kidding. So today is probably the last video I'll have up for the Independence, as I have since replaced it with the U.S.S. Ranger, which is, I don't know if it's an upgrade so much as a side grade, but we'll get to that in a future video. So, as we're getting started here, it's a 2-carrier battle, and as I said in the chat there, finally not a tier 8 battle with my tier 6 carrier. I didn't get up-tiered double. So that was nice.
Action stations.
So there's me and my Independence with the 1-1-1 air wing, 1 fighter squadron, 1 bomber squadron, 1 torpedo squadron. That's my pretty standard. The Ranger that I'll get to has the potential for up to 4 squadrons instead of just 3, so that's nice. I'm still working on that, but like I said, different video. Anyway, back to this one. So you can see we've got 2 carriers on each team, so that's nice. And as I'm working here, I'm sending my, initially, my plan, as pretty much always with a carrier group, so if you ever see me, take this to your advantage, is to send my torpedo and bomber squadron around the edge and hope that they get ignored and slip around the back, and I always try for a first shot at the enemy carrier. And if I run out of, if they run into an enemy, or if they don't make it all the way to the carrier, or the carrier's defended, I'll go for the first good-sized target I run into, and it all depends on what I run into, really. So the other carrier is moving, but he's moving slowly, so I'm gonna initially push myself around off to the east, kind of park it behind that rock a little bit. Well, hide it behind that rock. I'm not gonna park it. And then swing it back around to the west, just so that if the enemy does break through in a destroyer or planes or something, they don't spot both of our carriers at the same time, because we will very quickly become the focus of the other team's attention. So I've got a Cleveland there on the other side of the rock for me, and that's nice. So I'm going to give my torpedo and bomber squadron their marching orders, as it were, and just kind of sit back and wait and see what develops here. My fighters are in position, and fighters have discovered a couple. There's the enemy fighters, which are pretty close to my strikers there, but then my fighters discover bad news over there in the far east.
Waypoint reached. Received. I'm on it.
And between the 2 friendly fighter squadrons and my fighter squadron, I would really like to wipe out the enemy fighters. I don't know how many they have at this point, but I'm also afraid that my guys are going to get discovered and get caught by the enemy fighters here, so I'm just going to send them in, because they definitely were going to get spotted. I don't do a terribly great job here. The bombs are pretty good, but my torpedo planes don't really do anything good here.
Group 3 approaching target. Group 3 awaiting instructions.
But what they do is discover the entire enemy strike package altogether there, and my fighters, now that my fighters and the enemy fighters, well, I mean the friendly, the other carrier there, Pistol Pete, his fighters wiped out that enemy fighter squadron. So look at this. This is like every fighter carrier strike, or fighter wing American carrier captain's dream. I'm trying to get my planes out in front of them so I can do a head-on fighter sweep, right manual attack, right down, straight north to south. It never really works out, but at any rate, my fighters get into the midst of their whole entire attack group, and it turns out pretty well for me. So I'm trying to set up a nice manual on all their bomber squadrons here, and I don't quite pull it off, but it's pretty good, as you can see here. There's 12. There's two entire bomb squadrons knocked out in a single pass for a manual attack. That's pretty good. You can't get too much better than that. I mean, besides getting everybody there, but... And this just happens to line up pretty nicely, too, so... There's another 5 wiped out in a manual attack, so 21 planes, or rather 19. 19 planes knocked out, 18 of them in a... Or 17. 17 in 2 manual strikes, and the other 2 just the general attacks there. So not too bad. We didn't take not too much damage there from all that air attack. We did a pretty good job knocking that out. So I've got to kind of reassess what I'm doing here. And then I decided I've been wanting to make a manual fighter attack video and manual airplane attack video, so I did a shadow play DVR recording right there, which is the same button, Alt F10 on my keyboard, that for some reason always triggers off the F10 message, which is good luck and fair sea. So you'll see that a couple times because I have a couple good manual fighter attacks here during this battle, and so I'm not just telling the team randomly good luck and fair seas. It's when I decided something good happened and I wanted to keep it for video purposes. So I'm going to bring my fighters back and rearm while the enemy fighters are totally destroyed and wiped out. Might as well send my guys back up with a full load of ammo while I've got the chance to rearm them. Get my torpedo planes in on another attack run over here on the side, kind of help our guys over here.
Waypoint reached.
Now, if you notice, our west side only has two cruisers right now, and everything else we've got is focused in the east. Well, there's 2 destroyers there too, but most of what we have is focused very strongly in the east, and that's not really a good thing. Now, I couldn't decide here where to go with my torpedo squadron. They're basically both good options to torpedo here. I kind of decided at the last second whether I should go for the Königsberg or go for the
We're under attack.
go for the Farragut. And either the Farragut or the Königsberg, one of them has the anti-air defense on, which really messes up the torpedo run here, unfortunately. Can't really be helped. So, I think he would have sailed past where I had the torpedoes aimed anyways. I don't know that I would have been able to change my aim point better than I did there, but in the meantime, my bombers are hanging out over the top of this destroyer. And I'm trying to just have them hang out here and at least spot the torpedoes. So they're doing that for our team anyway. They're not able to attack yet, but they're at least able to spot. Let the guys know where the torpedoes are coming so that it's not quite such a surprise for that Piccola there, who still almost sails right into them. But he doesn't. He avoided them, and I have to hope that's partially because of my bombers. So I'm going to move my fighters down in. I was moving my fighters down to replace the bombers there so I could send the bombers on an attack run. But then the enemy torpedo squadron shows up, and I've got to go after them. And then I decided to send the bombers after this Königsberg since they've already used up their anti-air over there. And you can see that worked pretty well. 2 hits, 2 bombs is not too bad. I just don't have time. Once the enemy carrier group split up all their strikers, I just couldn't have my fighters everywhere at the same time, unfortunately. So our Nagato takes some attacks there. It didn't look like he took too much damage. But I'm going to get my fighters in and try to wipe them out on their way back to their home carrier. And you'll see here, a head-on attack isn't quite as effective as the tail stern attack was, although another 8 fighters between 3 groups, pretty good. And there's another manual recording, or DVR recording there for that airstrike, because it went pretty well. Eventually I hit a personal best for air kills, so I just kept the entire video, but the first place when I was keeping these, it was just because I was going to make them all into a carrier sort of a how-to, or just a compilation of my best airstrikes with fighters and bombers and torpedo planes, but the whole video ended up being pretty good, so my fighters are trying to deprive the enemy of some torpedo planes, while other torpedo planes are getting in on our battleship up there, and they look like a pretty good strike. Not much I could do. Except try to intercept them and stop them from getting back to their carrier as well. Now, I'm not really paying attention up in the northwest, but if you guys are paying attention, you'll see a bad situation developing that I just didn't deal with well. And there's another manual strike that wipes out an entire enemy squadron. So if you'll notice, I'm a little bit too far west up there, and there are 3 enemy cruisers that are getting way too close that I never should have allowed my carrier to be that close to them.
Waypoint reached. 4 airborne.
Group 2, returning to ship.
Bring my fighters home to reload and rearm again, re-squadron. While I've got the time here. While I know most of the enemy planes are returning to base too. Now I made a bit of a mistake here. I should have continued on this Nuremberg, but I changed to the Molotov, which I shouldn't have. I should have stuck with the Nuremberg even though he was sideways. He was much closer to being destroyed.
Group 4, we're under attack.
And I didn't adjust my plane's attack angle very well either here. Somebody has a defensive AAA fire again.
Group 4, approaching target.
And therefore my bombers all completely miss. The bombers that made it to the target, that is.
Returning to ship.
So now these cruisers are all way too close to my carrier. And I send my bombers up to the northwest corner just in case somehow they don't see my carrier, but they can see my bombers, to try and mislead them into heading out into that corner so I get a little bit more space opened up. And this Nagato has got defensive fire too and just does a number on my torpedo planes here before they can get in and drop their torpedoes.
Group 3, approaching target.
Including one right at the drop. That's always so frustrating when you lose a plane right at the point of drop. Did get a good hit and a good flood on him with the torpedoes I did get off. But very annoying that 3 of the planes got shot down before they got there. And then the rest got nailed by the AAA and the fighters there, but I did put a flood on that Nagato and at least make him have to burn his repair. And here come the enemy fighter, or enemy strikers again, and I've got a fresh launch of fighters here, so time to go do some more work. 31 kills so far for all my fighters. And they aren't done yet. Pull them in behind these guys and see if we can get another good manual strike and wipe out a whole bunch of them.
Group 2, engaging enemy.
It doesn't quite work as well as the last few, but it wasn't too bad either.
Group 2,
6 isn't too bad.
instructions over. Group 2,
And with 1 fighter left, we'll take him out real quick and then get back on the enemy planes.
standing by for instructions over. Group 3, ready for takeoff.
I kind of messed up a little bit and got my fighters a little too far behind the enemy bombers, but they'll catch up in a moment.
Ready for takeoff. Autopilot mode disabled.
And at least I got the attention of the, we did get the attention of one of the enemy carrier captains. We did take a pretty good hit there. I waited for the torpedoes to come in and then used my repair, but we're in so much trouble right now. Basically, all the enemy ships are just closed in a semicircle almost. At least a pincer move on both sides of us, and we're just getting pounded. Both myself and the other carrier.
The ship is on fire.
So, what I should have done here was set up my, send my fighters in on the friendly cruiser. But I didn't. I should have put him on him for some fighter cap. It doesn't end up mattering. That's not what ends up killing him, but I did set a new personal best for air kills there with 47 over my previous 42 with the Bogue, so not too bad. And you'll be able to see in the background here, my torpedo planes do get a good post-mortem double torpedo hit on that Nagato again, but he must have had a really fast repair time or something on his damage control party, because he still gets a flood, but it doesn't really cause all that much damage, honestly. Now, in the meantime here, the other carrier Pistol Pete has been killed, but I didn't notice that. I was intently watching my torpedo drop there. So you can see 2 more hits and a flood. And you can see a little bit of flood damage happening here, but it doesn't last very long, so So that brings my final total up there to 47 air kills, 3 torpedo hits for 2 floods, 4 bomb hits for 3 fires, and 1 incapacitation. Not bad, but obviously not good enough, so I'll spare you guys the rest of the battle, which did take a little bit here, and we'll fade out. We'll come back to the right at the end there, and then we'll see the final scores, and that'll be that. So here we come right up at the end, and you can see there's our poor Cleveland knocked out. Not his fault by any means. He was all alone against about 6 enemies, so here's the final score reports. So there's all the totals. There's the team score. I did pull off a first place with 47 kills. I just wish I'd done more damage or sank a couple ships there. There's all the damage I did to people, all the planes I shot down. Got a lot of the Rangers. And the scores and cash that I made. And that's pretty much it. If you guys haven't seen my Twitter, it's in the description as well as my Instagram. There's mostly video game stuff on there, but occasionally some Pokemon Go. So please don't unsubscribe for me for that. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.